and for the other people who love data and what it can do creatively as much as I do, then welcome to Infoporn. So I'm really pleased to be here to speak with you. This has been such a fantastic festival so far. Let me introduce myself. I'm Angela Everitt. I'm Director of Creative Strategy at the Economist Group. And I need to say something. I'm not a data analyst by any means. It's my job at the Economist Group to come up with the best marketing solution I can for our clients and the audience. But as a former journalist and a fellow citizen of this post-truth world we all find ourselves in, credibility has never been more important to me. I want this talk to really be a love letter to data and insight. Throughout, I'm going to share some insights of my own with you from a study we conducted last year. We surveyed 1,600 global executives, 800 of whom are our audience, 800 of whom are senior marketers. And I hope for some of you, some of these takeaways are going to be useful for when you're pulling together your next strategies. I also really want this to be a clarion call. What I'd love to see more of is data at the heart of content strategy, right from the beginning, right from the planning phase where all the insight happens, right through to the creative execution at the end. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to introduce the Economist Universe to you quickly, because we are more than a magazine. We have the Economist Intelligence Unit, and I'm going to say a quick bit about that in a second. We have our apps, we have our other magazines. We produce content for brands. We run events for brands. We have a film department. We create video. And something which is a really exciting development for me is the recent acquisition of Signal Noise, which is a data visualization agency in London. And it's a great fit for us because we are a data-led organization. The Economist Intelligence Unit was established in 1946 as a sister organization to the paper, and it was initially going to be a resource for the journalists so that they knew that they had economic analysis and facts that were sound. It quickly evolved to be an organization in its own right that companies subscribe to get analysis. And today, we have 900 analysts and contributors worldwide in 205 countries. And we cover a range of analysis ranging from country analysis through to public policy, healthcare, right through to customer market research. So when I was thinking about this talk today, I fell down a little rabbit hole of internet research about big data. I wanted to see when the very first allusion to big data came about. By doing that, I came across some fun facts. Well, fun for me. And I wanted to share them with you. In 1944, a US librarian, Fremont Rydell, what a great name. I'd love to be called Fremont Rydell. He estimated that US libraries were doubling in size every 16 years. He said that by 2040, Yale Library would have 2 million volumes, 6,000 miles of shelves, and 6,000 members of staff. In 1961, Professor Derek Price concludes that the number of scientific journals has doubled every 50 years, increasing by a factor of 10, and he calls this the law of exponential increase. In 1975, a Japanese governmental department conducted the information flow census, and they concluded the demand for one-way communication from mass media is stagnant. Society is moving towards more detailed information to meet individual needs. And I thought that was fascinating that 40 years ago, people were already concluding that personalized data based on insight was where we were going to be, where we needed to be. And I think what this also shows is that humans love discovery. We love information. And these days, despite there being such a mass of it about, we're still hungry. So from our study, 68% of the audience seek out thought leadership content on a weekly basis, and 33% of them do so daily. Now, I don't know whether this is the very first mention of big data, but in 1997, these guys published their paper, and they were one of the first to use the term big data. Visualization provides an interesting challenge for computer systems. Data sets are generally quite large, taxing the capacities of main memory, local disk, even remote disk. We call this the problem of big data. I think maybe we need a new term. I don't think big data even really covers it anymore. Today, we produce 2.5 exabytes of data, and to put that into context, that is 1 quintillion bytes of data every day. And just for the record, Yale University currently has 15 million volumes. I emailed them to find out. So marketers, we really love data. If you think of what we have at our fingertips, we have, if we're lucky, first-party data, we have third-party data, and we can use this to target, to craft content that is specific to an audience. If we're wise, we use this as a relationship-building content strategy. But turns out we're not that clever. So our study found that we put the question to marketers, what's your key objective? When you're pulling together your content marketing campaign, what do you really want to do? And nearly half of them said, I want to differentiate my company from the competition. Nearly the same again said they want to gain recognition for their experts and for their company. They want to be seen as an expert in their field. Only 28% of marketers said that they wanted the audience to become more knowledgeable. So another finding from our study said that the audience connects with less than 20% of the content that they see. And I think you can draw a direct line between that relatively low engagement and that low number of marketers who really care about putting the audience first. And we're going to do more of it. 80% of marketers are going to produce more content this year, and we know that less than 20% gets engagement. We know, because we've got the insight that tells us this, but we're just going to do more of the same, which is the definition of insanity. I mean, isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? This is madness to me, for no other reason than that's your marketing budget down the drain. Why would you do this? It's a problem because audiences are overwhelmed with content. We've reached peak content. And if you take anything away from this, it's do less, but do it better. Because 3 in 5 of a global executive audience are overwhelmed and actually admit to being confused by the amount of content that's out there. Over half of them feel like intrusiveness has actually increased. And they've become more selective. And so these days, people are refining their shortlist of trusted sources, and they're blaming the amount of content out there directly for this, kind of drawing up the drawbridges a little bit, refining their sources. So what can we do? We're all, some of us in the audience, I imagine, are marketers, creators. We want to get our stuff out there. We want to resonate. How can we do that? Well, I feel like if we put data and insight at the heart of our strategy in 3 key ways, then we've got a decent chance of breaking through and resonating with our audience. First thing, be credible. So this is very much within the framework of a B2B audience, right? So this is B2B marketing. But I think it applies across the board. So for us, our audience, trust is established when the research feels credible and it's quality. We ask the question, if you were to come across a challenger brand, so someone you're not familiar with, maybe that you've not subscribed to, what would make you stop and take notice? And they said you need to be a source of hard facts. But for people who aren't a news organization, who aren't a data-led organization in the traditional sense, I think what this really means is have something useful to say, something that is based in authenticity and credibility, because that will break through and that will help you to resonate. Use your insight wisely. So this is an example of a program we did for Microsoft. This is the first iteration of this. We've actually done we've renewed for a couple of years, but this is the first instance that we published in about 2015. And Microsoft came to us because they wanted to change perception. They didn't want to just be seen as a software company. They wanted to be seen as a leader in cloud solutions. And we pulled together, we identified some white space for them, the EIU. We worked and found a topic around business technology and how that would function, impact different C-suite functions. And we went to the audience to find out what their pain points were, what they thought. We didn't do a big survey in the traditional sense. We crafted a punchy 7-question survey that we pushed out in media units in a highly targeted LinkedIn campaign. And we got over 1,000 respondents, which was great, completely smashed our quota. And from that, we crafted the content based on those responses. And we produced some written content, but we also produced some video blogs, actually featuring some of the people that had interacted with us and interacted with the survey. So there was a feeling of peer-to-peer communication as well. And this worked. We achieved 40% greater recognition for Microsoft across our channels. Across the board, we achieved a 30% increase in familiarity, and consideration of Microsoft as a cloud provider went up by at least 60%. So here we get to what is the most exciting part for me. How can we innovate with format using data to break through and connect with the audience? Because the days of the white paper and the report are kind of over. There's a place for that, for sure. But we live in an always-on world. We live in a world where people are on different platforms. They're time poor. They're being, as we've just seen, bombarded with other content. And so I believe that data gives us an opportunity to do something really exciting that's a bit different. And this is an example of a data overlay video. I'll play it in a sec, but it's my 2 passions, like information, clearly I'm a nerd about that, but also Wimbledon, which is my other great love. So if we could play.
Wimbledon is a traditional championships, but there's so much technology hidden behind the scenes. There are around 120 broadcast cameras around Wimbledon's grounds, broadcasting to a global audience of around 1 billion. The movement of the players and the ball is tracked around the court by 10 different cameras, tracking 50 frames a second. There's the sensors in the roof that track the humidity, the sensor on the net cord, the LED displays showing the score, and the speed of serve. There's the data entry system capturing stats from all the matches. There are 110 miles of television cable running around the grounds. But we hide as much of the technology as we can. It's about being able to stay true to our original ideal, tennis in an English garden.
And this was actually by an agency, McCann, who some of you I'm sure will be familiar with. And this was from a campaign last year for Wimbledon. But I think it offers up some really exciting possibilities to combine video with something that's just adds another layer of storytelling. This is an example of something that I think takes static representation of data to a whole new level. So we've all seen, I'm sure, the stack tower infographic, where you have a little bit of graphics, a little bit of text, it takes you on a journey. Like maybe you have to scroll 2 or 3 times to get to the end. They never work on social like everyone thinks they do because they're too big. And I kind of think their day's over. So this shows the number of data leaks worldwide in 2015, and the different shapes represent the different sources of the leaks. So the triangles are accidental, the circles are hackers, the other shapes are state-sponsored hacking and malicious insiders. The colors represent the different levels of threat. So blue represents relatively low level. It's someone hacking into your email, someone hacking into your bank account, which is annoying, but not the end of the world, right through to red, which is national security level threat. That's the bad stuff. So the circles show different industry. Obviously, the size of the shape represents the size of the leak, how much data was lost. And then the lines you can see around the outside of the circle are the number of times per day that data was lost. And that's a lot to get across in one graphic, but if you were to sit with that and be able to see all the text properly, it gets across, it packs a punch. It punches above its weight. And you don't have to scroll 3 times to see the whole thing and get the whole story. I like to call this the wow factor. So this is by Signal Noise, and this is something that they produced for their own design show last year. And it's the gentrification forecast. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with an area of London called Shoreditch. It's basically where everyone who is young and hip lives, so not me. But based on real data and projections of things that have been announced that are likely to happen in London, they were able to predict where the next stages of gentrification in London would take place, and therefore, in theory, where people would want to live. So if we can play. So what you can see is a moving timeline at the bottom. And I don't know, the text is a little small to read, but each circle and with a corresponding date is an event or something that's happened. So for example, Zaha Hadid's building in Brixton opened, an extension to one of the tube lines was announced, the night tube opened, shortly the orange dots we're going to see in a minute is London's Crossrail, and all the little arrows you can see moving towards those points are the people that we anticipate are going to be moving to those areas. So I know it's kind of hypnotic, and actually in light of the last speaker, it kind of looks a bit like sperm, but hadn't occurred to me before. But I love this. I love it because it feels so fresh to me. It feels, just something different. And again, it's telling a data story in a really compelling way. I mean, this was based on a bunch of stuff that came from, internet research, but then an Excel spreadsheet. And what a more exciting way to present data than just giving someone a report. And we're done. This one I couldn't get, well, it's from 2014 anyway, and The Guardian wouldn't give me any information about it. But this is, again, a Signal Noise project. And this was for the 2014 Ryder Cup, the golf tournament. And this was a visualization based on an API feed. They were able to update in real time. So what The Guardian realized was they have their live blogs. So when there are big sporting events on, they will update their blog feed as and when things happen, minute by minute. And what they know is that people look at this at work. They have a little sneaky look, see what's happening in the golf, see what's happening in the tennis. And they thought, well, if people are doing that, yeah, you can sort of scroll, read a blog, but how much better to have something graphic that refreshes itself in real time. And so as every shot was played, as every putt was made, I'm going to stop there because I know nothing about golf and I know nothing about the terminology. But suffice to say, it worked really well because people were able to quickly refresh, oh yeah, again, I'm going to stop because I'm going to embarrass myself. I can't say anything about golf. But it was a great solution for them and a neat way to augment their live feed blog. Why does it work? Again, I'm back to the audience and the importance of knowing who your audience is. So Signal Noise know that there are they've identified 3 levels of audience. You've got your skimmers, your waders, your divers. Skimmers, as the name suggests, are the people who are time poor. They're the C-suite. They're the senior leaders. They want to go to something and get insight straight away. Want to be quick, just get the takeaways, and off they go. Waders, they've got a bit more time. Maybe they're going to dig a bit deeper, have a bit more of a play, but they're still pretty time poor. Divers, they want to delve into the data. They want to draw their own conclusions. They don't want to be spoon-fed anything. They don't want your insight. They want to find it out for themselves. And for me, data visualization, something like the gentrification forecast I showed you, even the static example, is a neat way to hit all of these people at the same time. I mean, we talk about an audience as if it's a homogeneous mass. And people are different, or they consume content in different ways. But if you produce a really lengthy, long-form thing, or you've got various things that are telling the same story, you're in danger of alienating 2/3 of your audience because they just don't have the time to engage. Why marketers should think more about interactive data viz and using it creativity? Well, it works. This is actually from a study by the Content Marketing Institute in America. They talked to 20,000 of their subscribers, business owners, and 79% of them said that interactive content enhances retention of brand messages. The caveat being when it's combined with traditional marketing techniques. So that's the email shout out, that's the media, because as we know, if you don't have any drivers, no one's going to look at your beautiful data viz anyway. You've got to get them there. And credible, compelling content gets results. So the high point of our survey was finding out that actually, if you get it right, then content can work. 76% of senior executives would be influenced in their purchasing decisions. 67% would advocate for your brand. 83% would be influenced in a choice of business partner if they've engaged with a credible piece of content. And that's it. So if you're interested in any of the results, that website there has everything on there. There's a Tableau reader that you can download and play with the data yourself, manipulate the findings, splice and dice. I'm happy to share this with any of you who want to connect with me afterwards, or I'm happy to take some questions now. Anyone? We're good? Ah, we have a question. We could just come and talk to me after. Oh, she's coming.
Thank you. Obviously, these have been some great examples of data journalism or data pieces that resonate with us here, but do the producers or do you usually also measure how it resonates with your audience, and how do you measure it?
Sure, so we would, we measure dwell time, engagement with the content, and something more interactive like that kind of averages sort of like 4 to 5 minutes, which, you know, for some of us in marketing terms, that's like a lifetime. But the longer you spend, obviously, the more chance you have of getting the message across and resonating. But yeah, we would absolutely measure that with dwell time. Okay, thanks everyone.